Hello, and thank you for having me today. First and foremost, I want to take a moment to thank the Southern University Law Center for putting this together and helping educate the entire community a bit more about esports. Esports is a catch-all term that's thrown around a lot, but people use it interchangeably for a lot of different things. I started in this industry close to a decade ago, originally working in video game development and YouTube and the fun nerd world that you can tell by the toddler's bedroom I live in behind me. But one of the areas I'm most proud of is the work we've done in esports. So myself and my partner Allison, for quite a while now, we first got into esports from getting really random sob stories in our inbox. One of the first players we ever helped was a kid from the Middle East who came over here to play a tournament in one of the top esports games around. I won't mention them because of the second half of this story. But they won a massive prize pool. It was going to change their lives, their families' lives, people's around them lives back home. And instead of getting that payout, their team owner took the money, revoked their visa, and had them deported. This industry was a mess when we came into it. And that's not to say everyone who was part of esports was evil and terrible, but there was a lot of, hey, I can get some quick cash here and really take advantage of these kids and players and go. And we saw a lot of that. So we were able to come in and very quickly, just by being attorneys, no one likes getting a scary lawyer letter. No one likes getting a phone call from a lawyer. So we were able to resolve these massive headaches and issues that many players were facing with a simple phone call. And that was a really impactful thing, more so than we could have possibly imagined, where we would get, we had players that weren't paid for 6 months or were living in closets at their team house that was they were so excited to move to. And they would tell their friends and their friends would tell their friends. And Ali and I helped quite literally hundreds of players for multiple years without charging any of them a dollar. And that was important to us because they weren't getting their money. They couldn't afford a lawyer, so they weren't able to speak up and fight for themselves. And that's something we took very seriously. And still today, we help a lot of players whenever we can, completely pro bono or with discounts or flexible fee structures or whatever it might be, because it's important. And this industry makes billions of dollars literally, and it's not getting to the people actually creating the content. So one of the things that was the first to figure out was these player contracts. Every player was being signed, if they even had an agreement, as a contractor. Now, in America, contractors and employees are very different. Contractors don't get health insurance. They don't get basic rights. They're treated as a separate entity, a separate thing entirely. And that had to change, because one of the main litmus tests for if someone is an employee and deserves all those rights is the method and manner of control over their job. And that differs state to state, of course, but no state in the 50 of them would say these players were contractors. They lived in a team house. They were told to wake up at a certain time of the day. They had to go to the gym. Then they had to go record practice. Then they had to review videos of that practice. Then they had to go on Twitch and stream. Their entire lives, every minute was scheduled and controlled. So the method and manner of control over their job was indisputably that of an employee. So as such, we were able to get a lot of these players into a proper role as an employee or out of those terrible situations. And instantly we saw contracts start changing. We saw rights start changing. We saw everything just get better for them. And what we also saw was when it stopped being so easy to take advantage of these players because of us and a handful of others that came in helping them out, the bad actors in the space kind of drifted away. And the ones that are left here that are running these organizations now, a lot of them have kind of spillover bad blood from that time, or they have a bad reputation from that time. But they were not part of the problems. The bad contracts now are very different than the bad contracts 5 years ago. But what we're able to do now is actually argue for those contracts and negotiate those clauses. And it's not a switch you flip and now everything's perfect. It's not something you can just ask for everything and get it all handed to you. So we've had to pick our battles very carefully. 3 of the main things that we're concerned about are sponsorship rights, their name and likeness rights, and their overall intellectual property rights. So sponsorship rights are an obvious one. If our player wears a logo on a jersey and it's the team's jersey, fine. I understand that. That's a team sponsor. However, when they're on the face of a Red Bull can or they're activating for at various events or whatever they were doing, that's not part of their normal job. They're a pro player. They're not a billboard model. So as such, we've gotten them paid for those sponsorships, most importantly. But also importantly, we've gotten them the ability to get their own individual sponsorships. That did not exist 5 years ago. Players, if they wanted a sponsorship, it would go through the team and they'd never see a penny. Now we get that in just about every deal. We've changed that pretty dramatically. Name and likeness rights are also super important. You know, if you are a character on an in-game skin, or they're selling a jersey with your name on it, or whatever it might be, you deserve a share of that. And that's something that we've pushed very hard. And we've had wins, we've had losses. It's still an ongoing conversation. And the overall intellectual property rights and media rights to their YouTube channels, their streams, and all the content they're creating. That's what everyone's watching. That is the industry. This is not like traditional TV where you need a production team and you need X, Y, and Z. This is as simple as them hitting go live in their bedroom and doing it. And they see very little of it. So we've been fighting to make sure they retain A, ownership of those channels and streams, and B, the revenue payouts and the back end shares. All the teams are trying to take a piece of that, and we don't allow that because they didn't contribute to it. They're not part of it. It's the players. So together, the team at Morrison Rothman, and I also run an agency called Evolve Talent Agency. Very proud of the 40 to 50 people that work with me that fight for this every single day. And I get to come and yell about it and scream about it on camera with you guys and everything else. But it really takes an army here because there's so much money, so many high-powered lawyers, and so many people on the other side that are getting everything they want. And successful people rarely want to share that success. So what we've done here is, instead of trying to beat down the door and grab it all ourselves, we're looking for mutually beneficial relationships. We look to negotiate calmly, rationally, and thinking long-term with these teams, with these leagues, and with these publishers. And as a result, we're starting to have much more positive conversations where 1 and 1 can equal 3 instead of our 1 equals your 0. So that's something to keep in mind too for everyone watching, who is, whether you're in esports or not. Negotiating doesn't have to be taking theirs and making it yours. There are ways to do something better together, and that's what we're trying to build this industry on. That's a quick summary and look into what we do here, and I sincerely appreciate the opportunity to share it, and happy to always talk to students, answer questions, and field anything else out if you guys reach out. But other than that, thank you again to the Southern University Law Center, and hopefully see you again soon.